Welcome to Doomscroll. I'm Lisa Curry.
Hey, I'm Matthew Sheffield. And today we have a great guest joining us today, Rick Rosner. He is a former writer with Jimmy Kimmel. And it's good to have you here, Rick.
Thanks for having
Thanks for being here.
Cool. All right. Right now, as we're recording this, the House of Representatives is voting on whether Jim Jordan should be the Speaker of the House. And he has lost the first round.
I'm kind of enjoying this chaos. It's just hilarious to me that they can't figure their shit out.
And with no prospect. I mean, even if he gets elected, nothing will get done. This House is on track to be by far the crappiest House in history. A normal House enacts 100 to 300 laws. And they're not all laws that conservatives would hate. They address stuff like, Hawaii burns down or Israel gets attacked. You're going to need to pass some stuff to address that stuff. And these guys have passed in 9 months 15 pieces of lead for enactment.
Wow.
So you're saying they're a little behind schedule.
Right. So I came up with a scale of say a normal house passes 100 to 300 pieces. So say normal is 6 inches. And worst house in history before this, 3 inches. Greatest house in history, 11 inches. On that scale, this house is less than half an inch. It's a micro house.
That's funny.
Well, and you got to be careful like that. You'll get Jim Jordan interested in.
Well, I feel like this house specifically feels like it really represents the wrong side of the great thing about America is anyone can get elected.
Anyone who can hold their nose. I mean, the job has gotten crappier, where you have to spend half your time. They have a separate building where you have to go to make cold calls. And we're in showbiz. We know how miserable pitching is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to go 20 hours a week. You have to go to the phone building and cold call donors and pitch yourself to glom money. And so the people who can tolerate that and all the other crappy conditions that goes are often just scummy people. Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to talk about her later. But yeah, no, I think you're right, Rick. And we have to say though that this is the Republicans specifically are so much worse than
well, the Republicans over the past 50 years have painted themselves into a demographic corner. 50 years ago, Republican think tanks figured out that dumb people are more motivatable. You can get them riled up, and you can move them around, and 50 years later, there's a concentration of angry dumb people in the Republican Party and often in office, and it makes for terrible politics.
Oh yeah. It is like idiocracy. The Republican Party has become idiocracy, and I have to say, like, I love that the Democrats in the House have not lifted a goddamn finger to help Republicans.
the Democrats have a terrible habit too, where the Democrats are like, we're not going to worry about branding. The Republicans are geniuses at branding. They spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of thought, and the Democrats are just like, we're going to lean back and let the Republicans be jackasses and hope people notice and vote for us because we're better people. Which is
it's not a strategy.
No, it's a
no. Yeah,
but half the time I feel like the left, we barely even mention, like, instead of when things get really bad, it seems like the message, rather than this is what we have to offer and this is why you should vote on the left, the message is, well, you don't want those guys, do you? And it's like, that's not really it.
Well, people barely know what they even want, what the Republicans want. So it's like you're saying, oh, you don't want those guys. Well, if they don't know what they want, then what does that even mean?
I'm on Twitter all day, just like angrily insulting the people that I don't like politically, and I wish more people would be doing that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, like that is basically like that is literally what Fox News does to millions of people 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Fox
and that's
News
just one
is-
channel. That's just one channel. Yeah.
Right. It's Fox News is clear messaging. Guys with big blocky heads look like thumbs, pretty women in tight dresses, bright colors, for the segment of the population with mild cognitive decline.
basically. And yet, you know what? Like, this is the one time where the Democrats actually sitting on their hands actually is going to be effective because, basically the Republicans cannot, so Kevin McCarthy got kicked out. And then Steve Scalise, who was his number 2, tried to become the speaker, and then he had to withdraw. And then Jim Jordan was going to try to. He's the third in line now, and he's already failed. So,
honestly, I think they should just hold open auditions. It should be like an America's Got Talent type thing where we have a lineup of people and they come across the stage and they do a little recital for us, and then we have a rose ceremony, and that's how we decide who's the speaker.
You don't have to be a member of the House to be the speaker.
That's
People
true.
have been suggesting Schwarzenegger because everybody likes Schwarzenegger. I think celebrities are hope for uniting the country. I'm looking for President Taylor Swift in 2036.
Yeah. Well, but I love, though, that Matt Gaetz, his reaction to all this, he said recently that he's tired of all the Speaker of the House drama. And it's like, you started this whole thing. It's so perfect, though, because like the Republican Party basically has sort of become the party of, destroy and slash and burn. And the mainstream media never points that out. The Democrats don't point that out. And so, and then they're constantly being bailed out by the Democrats. And so for once, the Democrats are not saving them. And the Republicans, they became the party of chaos. And, it's gone on at a long enough point. And I think it's going to continue to go on, that people, like, even if you're just someone who barely pays attention to this shit, you actually will finally notice this stuff. At least,
I hope so. I mean, what we notice now is just the sex stuff. The Matt Gaetz Venmoing $300 to a 17-year-old high school senior, for sex. Jim Jordan's deal where he was a coach at a college where he was for 7 years, wrestlers were coming to him saying, the team doctor is playing with our junk and it in the showers and it's bad. And Jim Jordan covered it up.
Yep. Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
Over, getting felt up and feeling up her date at Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Well, which,
also, by the way, there's I was going to say there's an update on the Lauren Boebert story as well, which like I have to say, I just, she is like the reality TV version of Congress. We finally have that now. And so the update is that, so Politico went and pulled her campaign finance records, and it turns out that Boebert, she had steered her campaign donor money, some of it to her theater or Beetlejuice boyfriend. And so she was paying him off in addition to feeling him up.
Well, I know she spent like $317 of campaign funds, which you're not allowed to touch, at his bar.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she said she's no longer dating him because he's a Democrat.
She's so full of shit. Of course she is. I'm just like, I feel like that whole debacle. I mean, I think it's I don't even want to say below The Office because it's really not and hasn't been for quite some time. But it did kill me how the left, God bless all of us, were going after her so hard and like she was groping this guy and she was vaping at Beetlejuice. I'm like, This is a Saturday for any of you. What are you talking about? You can't shame her for something that, like, find something else. She's such an asshole. There's so much to pull from. Also, Beetlejuice is the horniest movie. It's literally this lecherous zombie trying to have sex with a teenager. That's the plot. That's the whole movie.
So basically, Donald Trump, Miss Teen USA, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, all right. So, but although speaking of Trump, though, we do have, his 4 criminal trials continue to grind along.
I love it.
And now he has a gag order finally in one of them. Finally,
I think 2 of them.
That's true. Yeah. Well, the hearing, there was a hearing in one of them, but it hasn't been ruled yet. But the prosecutor moved for it. But yeah, I mean, like this. His entire defense is, he doesn't have a defense in these trials. Basically, it's essentially trying to get his supporters to intimidate and threaten the jurors, threaten the witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been trying to actively get the prosecutors' names and filing Freedom of Information requests because they just want it to the public. That's all. They just want it to be known.
I feel like a gag order on Trump is the most ambitious act you could possibly have.
People are saying that it will increase his support if he gets thrown in jail for violating a gag order. I don't think they would dare throw him in jail because of that. They might fine him some money, but anything they do to him for violating the order is just going to make his supporters support him more.
Yeah, it's just going to galvanize them. Absolutely.
And Trump has been involved in 5,000 lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And his strategy is just going to be to draw this out and postpone the consequences until he's dead.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And having cheeseburgers in bed isn't the key to longevity. So I don't know.
His dad made it to 93.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus.
It's so unfair.
The last 7 years, his dad had obvious Alzheimer's, which I think killed him. So I noticed on your show, you talk about Trump's cognitive decline quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And the right talks about Biden's cognitive decline. And, I don't know. Trump started his presidency by telling about 10 public lies a day on average. By the end, he was doing 30 lies a day. So it's hard for me to tell whether Trump is really declining because he's been a dumb bullshitter for so long. I want some kid as a science fair project to take all of Trump's public statements into some kind of like cognitive decline software and tell us definitively whether Trump's brain is falling apart.
I think it's got to be because I think that there is a separation between the lies and then just him mixing up well-known facts. Like, didn't he conflate Jeb Bush with George Bush? And I'm like, that's not something that's some kind of secret insider information or not well known which one of them was the fucking president.
Yeah,
I think that is a fair point, and it definitely is the case with Trump. I mean, like over the course of his career, if people there's a reason that banks don't give him money and haven't for decades. Long before he got into politics, he was basically banned by all major American banks because they're like, you're a loser. You make stupid investments. You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
I don't think
no money for you.
The worst businessman of our lifetimes. Trump has lost more money from over the past 35 years than any other business person in America. And he and his family are the biggest deadbeats individual deadbeats in U.S. history. They've stiffed people out of about $1.5 billion.
Yeah, it's crazy that he, and this goes back to your point before, Rick, with like the right having excellent marketing. we all know this, especially like New Yorkers have known this since the fucking 70s.
Yeah,
And people buy his bullshit. It's just like what he says somehow holds more weight than everything he does. And I'm like, not to be silly, but it's kind of also a lesson for me in marketing myself. I'm like, oh, why am I getting caught up in my own, like, oh, I didn't do enough. Oh, I haven't won, like, I've never won an Emmy, or I've never, and it's like, who gives a fuck? Just start saying whatever you want, you know?
Yeah, there's this phrase, I think it was Abraham Lincoln. I've seen it attributed to him. He was like, you can fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all the time. And Donald Trump is like the perfect exemplar of that, for sure.
Yeah, but he only needs to fool 40% of the country, which, 40% of Americans in survey after survey are the boiled frogs, where it's hard to imagine.
A lot of people, they can't learn from the experiences of other people. So, like, unless Trump has screwed over someone that they personally know, they don't believe you when you tell them Trump has fucked over people to the tune of $1.5 billion. And constantly
they say, well, the contractors that he refused to pay, must have done a bad job.
Which is also like, you could do a bad job and you still did the job, and maybe he just hired the wrong person. They still need to get paid. That's the...
He has a strategy where you do the work, and then at the end he says, well, I'm not going to pay you. And you're like, why? And he goes, well, because I have lawyers. And then you're like, please. And then you get lawyers, and then the lawyers get together, and the contractor ends up settling for 25% of what they should have been paid.
Yeah. Well, hey, somebody who has succeeded at that very well just recently is Kelsey Grammer, right? Getting money out of Paramount to reboot Frasier. And like, Hollywood has just basically decided, the entertainment studios have all been, they don't want originality anymore. They just want recycling. And, it's like, guys, why don't you recycle in a useful way instead of programming?
Well, we were right up until through most of COVID, like there was the streamers were fighting, particularly Netflix, to own the streaming sector by spending billions of dollars on
new stuff. That's true. You are right about that. Yeah.
And then that strategy didn't work because there are, a zillion streamers. Netflix did not drive everybody out. And now it's slim pickings. And we suffer for it, and we have to watch Frasier reboots. It's interesting to me because I know they're going with the reboots because they think that's a safer bet. But I'm like, am I missing something? Was there like a rabid call for Frasier to come back? I mean, I feel like I never watched Friends, and I feel like I'm seeing all these clips online of Friends constantly, and I feel like that's still like a huge beloved show. But I'm like, Frasier? Was that? I know it ran for a zillion seasons, and really Frasier was a semi reboot of Cheers. Yeah, it was just a spin-off. It was. Look, I'm behind bringing Cheers back. What they need, I like when they take an old show and buy the rights and then fuck it up. Yeah, like I like to see wholesome old shows, made perverse. And with the AI, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to turn in the future. And maybe even now, you could probably turn any TV show or old movie into a porn movie. If that's what it takes to make it watchable. I mean, you could just recut some of them too. There's somewhere, if you poke around, I think there's something called Endless Friends. And it's an AI app. Oh, I haven't heard of that one. That just generates endless new episodes of Friends. I think it's just the scripts, but eventually you'll be able to watch AI will probably illegally, because when they will make deals with the studios that they can't just reuse Jennifer Aniston in perpetuity and not pay her, but there will be illegal apps that will give you endless new episodes, or if you want porno versions or ninja versions, you'll be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also seeing where it's at now, how developed it is now. I'm like, in 10 years from now, it's going to be wild. I mean, I'm really curious and nervous to see. Hopefully, I'm living in the woods by then, and I don't need to worry about it.
Well, and somebody else who's making a lot of money right now off of stuff is Taylor Swift. She's doing her Eras tour right now, and then they just made a film of the tour while it's still going. I think it's still going, right? And
I wonder how much of her deal to go direct to theaters and to cut out studios, I wonder how much that had an effect on the writer's strike. I'm curious what you think on that, Rick, because it's not that we all have the ability to go straight to theater, but I feel like somebody setting some sort of precedent that, hey, this can be done. I wonder if the studios were like, fuck, wait, no, make sure you still come to us.
You can't underestimate the studio's ability to be idiots, because the studios were started by bastards, by pricks, who were Thomas Edison was the biggest prick, and all they 100 years ago, if you wanted to make a movie in New York, which is where everybody was, you had to use Edison cameras, or his thugs would come beat you up and break your cameras. So that created the LA film industry, because everybody just hauled ass out here. The light is good, and Edison's thugs weren't out here, and it was a bunch of Jewish guys who had been in other businesses like fur trading, and they decided, I want to make art and also get rich and also fuck movie stars, and those guys began the studios, and they were pricks, and there was casting couches all over the place, and there's the story of the teen star who needed to have sex with the studio head, so the mom steps in and blows him instead to save the girl.
I can't. If I could get my mom to blow guys instead of me having to do it, I mean, I would be set.
Right, but that's the way it was. But those guys, in addition to being, monsters, they loved movies, and so they often made reasonable artistic decisions. They liked to make stuff that didn't suck. And then the studios were purchased by like Sony, and they became corporate run, and the corporate people just like making $150 million a year, and they don't give a fuck about
not at all
how you do it. And that's why there are so many shitty sequels and prequels and remakes and reboots. Like they basically are like, look, we're going to go with what the audience knows, and that's why there have been seems like 50 fucking Marvel movies, and
right, because they're predictable.
People are tired of it.
You spend $200 on the movie, you spend $100 million on the promoting of it, and you can reliably expect to make $1 billion.
Yeah,
as opposed to a $30 million movie where there's no way of predicting whether that movie will gross 20 million or 80 million.
I was just going to say a movie that's coming out that probably will make billions. Apparently the Daily Wire is making a Snow White movie.
I always feel bad for the kids of the families where the parents only let them consume crap like this and Veggie Tales. And I always hope that maybe a third of the kids who grow up in those households grow up to loathe their parents and everything they stand for.
Well, having having grown up in one of those households.
I grew up in one too, but my parents weren't assholes. They were Republicans, but they were nice Republicans.
Well, also when you were
Yeah.
growing up, there wasn't this. I mean, you know, it was like Republicans were different. I'm not saying good, but they were putting out shit
they
like
were part
this.
of everybody else. Yeah,
And
like there were
good
everyone
Republicans.
else.
Eisenhower ran and was president as a Republican. Perfectly fine president.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of historians have compared Barack Obama to Dwight Eisenhower, actually, and I think that's a pretty fair comparison. But you're right. I mean, Lisa, that's a great point that Lisa's making there. That because, like it used to be that there wasn't this sort of conservative industrial complex. That if you had religious fundamentalist viewpoints or whatever, you still had to watch all the same shit that everyone else saw on the TV. You were watching your Gunsmoke and your Beverly Hillbillies and your Dukes of Hazzard.
God,
and whatever,
my dad loves Gunsmoke. Somehow there's a channel that he watches that is almost 24/7 Gunsmoke. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, well,
but back to Snow White. Like the Daily Wire, for people who don't know, is this conservative media conglomerate. Ben Shapiro and a bunch of other people, and their version of Snow White will suck for the same reason that like a porn version of Snow White would suck. But the reason porn movies are bad is because the talent available to make a porn movie and engage in sex on camera that limits your pool to it's a small segment of the population that's not
Meryl Streep isn't doing it.
And so the segment of the population that is available to the Daily Wire, which requires you to have like a weird agenda, to believe in a bunch of weird bullshit, and that limits your pool. There are plenty of conservative people who are able to work in normal entertainment. Tom Selleck's conservative, Patricia Heaton's conservative, and it's no big deal. And they can, but the ecosystem of the Daily Wire is a very constrained and not overly talented part of the population.
Yeah, well, and let's be honest that they're only making this Snow White because Disney, is doing their live action one, and Republicans are mad at it. Like,
the Disney one might have like black people in it, and they hate that. Like when the Little Mermaid was turned out to be black in Disney, like the people just threw up their arms.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, like the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs story, it's kind of shitty anyway. Like, no matter how you slice it, like when my sisters, Snow White was consistently the lowest rated Disney princess among them, because it's just dumb. It's like, the story is, this woman, she goes into a mountain and she lives with some dwarves, and then an evil witch tries to kill her by eating an apple. Like, that's pretty fucking
she's
boring.
too beautiful, right? She gets in trouble for being too hot, and then pisses off some other lady.
Like, what kind of plot is that? It's just stupid. It's a stupid plot, and like nobody wants. Like, I don't even know why Disney is remaking it.
Revived by a
who likes Snow White
kiss or something. Yeah, like it's
it's just like, who likes that? Like, no one. No, I don't think anybody's even going to see the Disney one, to be honest. Like, have you ever known anyone, Lisa, who liked Snow White? I've never known anyone independent that actually liked Snow White.
No, but it's but it's under eminent domain, so that's something they can take. They can't take, Little Mermaid or I mean, The Lion King is more or less Hamlet. So they could. Oh, it is. Okay.
Hans Christian Andersen wrote the story.
See, look, this is how up to date I am on Disney.
Little Mermaid's a bummer too. I think in the original Hans Christian Andersen,
she dies.
She either dies or she ends up
gets caught in a boat propeller.
No, it's something like she turns into bubbles or some shit like that. And it's been been a while since I looked, but I mean, at least those are, some complex stories or whatever. It's just like no one's going to see either one of these Snow White movies, and it's so absurd, and there's a reason that people call them reactionaries, because they don't have original ideas. It's it's like they don't have a story that they want to tell or characters that they want to explore. They're just doing this shit because they got triggered by a Hispanic Snow White. That's all this is, and it's bullshit.
Ben Shapiro went crazy about the Barbie movie and set fire to a bunch of Barbies, and because the Barbie movie was kind of a feminist discussion of Barbie, which is like they've made more than a dozen Barbie movies. You just never saw them because they were aimed at kids. Barbie is a vet. Barbie, is an astronaut. And there are these 60-minute Barbie animated movies for kids. But if you're going to make an adult movie with Barbie, of course it's going to have discussion of feminist issues. It's
Because
unavoidable.
and then in the beginning,
yeah.
I guess
and
it's
the movie's
unavoidable
hilarious.
that Ben Shapiro will burn Barbies.
I don't understand. The thing with the right that I can't understand is how obsessed they are with the left. I could give a fuck. I'm not going to go watch this Snow White movie so that I could take notes and tell everyone how bad it was. I'm just simply not going to see it.
And you can stick it to the Republicans, and that's
it generates.
not happening.
They need content. All these pundits, Ben Shapiro, Hannity, everybody make Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox. They all make $30 million a year, and as long as they can pump out outrage, they can continue to make $2.5 million a month. So it's not authentic outrage usually. It's just Hannity owns 900 rental properties. And he wants more.
Oh, wow.
Hannity wants more condos. So there's always going to be outrage. Before we started rolling on this, we were talking about the Mercers. Rebecca Mercer and her dad, who are these, and the Koch brothers, though there's only one of the two Koch brothers that were pumping hundreds of millions
one of
into
them left.
conservative causes. Only one's alive anymore. But those guys, the billionaires, the Mercers, it's their agenda, and they you don't need their craziness. It just infects tens of millions of people who buy the messaging.
Yeah, no, and actually the Daily Wire is another example of that. It's owned by these two brothers, the Wilkes brothers. They own the Daily Wire, and they are fucking lunatics. They believe that they're part of this Christian cult that says they're the real Jews, and that Jesus sort of took the mantle of his chosen people and put it on this particular sect of Christians. And so they keep Jewish holidays, but they're Christian. And it's just a very fucked up, bizarre thing. And they have billions of dollars, and they're controlling all these Republican things. And your average Republican has no idea who's manipulating them and why they're doing it. It's just,
the Hobby Lobby people, the family that owns Hobby Lobby. People just want to make crafts. Crafts are very when you're sad in your life, you can make stuff. But Hobby Lobby, probably billionaires, and those huge biblical people that have been busted repeatedly for illegally buying holy objects that were looted from the Holy Land countries.
Well, didn't they get them also from? And I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to probably conflate one with the other. But didn't they get the items from the Taliban or something like that?
Yeah, they bought them through the black. There's a black market for Bibles.
And some of them were stolen from Iraq, stolen from the people of Iraq, the government of Iraq.
I mean, look, I don't know if we could go after Hobby Lobby too hard for stealing artifacts, considering that's every museum on the planet.
Yeah.
That's fair. Although it seems a little bit wrong when you're stealing it for the Museum of the Bible.
Sure.
And there's one thing, for every $1 million that a billionaire contributes to politics, they get back $5 million in tax breaks.
And that's why they do it. That's why they do it. All right. Well, so I think that's our last story for our show here today. So Rick, where can what are you working on for people who want to keep in touch with you?
You can look at me. I mean, my whole life is just angrily tweeting. You know, in the summer, I angrily tweet all day in a towel. In the winter, I move to a bathrobe, and so that's my job. I say that I'm working on a novel about a very smart dog, but we'll see if that ever comes out.
When you do have a great Twitter handle, I have to say, dumb ass genius.
Yeah, because I'm known for having like a very high IQ, but for every smart thing I do, IQ is not really intelligence, and only about for every smart thing I do 3 stupid things.
Okay, yeah. Well, stupidity is a lifestyle, then. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's the path to enlightenment.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Well, and then everybody make sure to follow at Doomscroll Show on both Instagram and Twitter, and then I'm on at Matt Sheffield.
And I'm on Instagram at Olympian Lisa Curry.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.